Hey there, I'm back with another video. It is May 30th, it's Friday, and yeah, it's Friday, May 30th, and it's 2:23. I cannot believe how fast this day is going by. It looks like it's 97 degrees outside, looks like it's pretty warm, so I'm not going to actually step outside until the sun goes down or gets close to coming down. So, I was working on my script today for my human trafficking presentation that I'm going to be sharing with the community. And if I don't find a job in time, but I am working on that, and I'm going to be splitting those two videos, one for the moral reset, and then one, of course, for my presentation. And I think that keeping busy for me is one of the most important things to stay, motivated. I honestly can tell you that I do not have what I call exciting thoughts, meaning like, I don't have things like I think about the future. I feel burned out. Like I don't feel, how okay. I used to have like a decent view of people. Okay. And I will say that this is being honest. I don't feel that way anymore. Like, after you deal with people who were active participants, whether they were coerced or whatever, it just leaves a very negative, you know, feeling, like you keep thinking that you can never trust another person again. And I understand some people were pressured into complying with that, but it still doesn't make me feel very comfortable. So it's still, it is what it is, and I'm being honest about my feelings. I still choose to be polite to people, but you have to understand, when people are that brainwashed, that is very, very terrifying. And I think that it's important for people who, hopefully, other people who actively participated. I'm talking about people who were in positions of, maybe like Rex Laverne was putting bugs in people's ear to bring me into job interviews or whatever. I'm going to seriously tell you that I wish you the worst. I wish you the worst. I do not believe that you should be living. I don't think that you should have the right to continue your life. Okay. Hopefully you got your karma, and so we can move on. Hopefully to find, people who really know what they're doing. And I will say that it's very difficult to find that. When I think about some of the laws that I'm talking about that I knew were already in place, I see that people participated in something that they had no idea. And I'm talking about, I had mentioned this before, human trafficking. I'm not human trafficking, human resource individuals and things like that. They don't think about the importance of confidentiality. They don't see any issue about throwing people's name and their personal information out in public sector. I will tell you, most people who get that kind of information are going to do bad things with it. And to think that you might be supporting a company, whether that be you doing so through patronage, being their customer, or working for these particular companies, is just absolutely terrifying, because people really do not have that sort of integrity. And like I said before, the word integrity is becoming so overused that it's almost like a catchphrase that, crooked employers like to use to try to use as a cover. But I see right through it. It's like, yeah, the word integrity, then I just kind of back out. Now, I will use the word integrity like in a sentence or whatever, but as far as like if I was to ever, use my a logo or something whenever it comes to like if I had my own company or something, because that has put such a bad taste in my mouth, I dare not use that. Okay, so what else did I want to talk about today? I do understand that the community recognizes me as an autodidact. I think a lot of people are not really familiar with that, but yes, the school system actually had its beginnings, okay? And you think, okay, well, how in the world did the school system start? The school system started by autodidacts, okay? Somebody had to learn and teach other, or learn independently and then teach people down beneath. And this goes back years and years and years and years and years and years. And I'm one of those people, okay? I'm somebody who's motivated to learn without people. I don't need people to motivate me. I don't need people to like, prod me or try to encourage me. It's just something that I do. And then I would say that autodidacts, such as like, I had mentioned people like Mark Twain. I mentioned people like Colonel Saunders. I mentioned people like, who else is a good example? Someone like Frank Lloyd Wright, okay? These particular individuals were basically self-driven, self-taught people who showed other people their skill, okay? And that's what I am. I am an autodidact. I am an autodidact. I can't really say that I'm an autodidact in accounting. The reason why is because I've taken courses in accounting. But when it came, I kind of took them backwards. Like, I learned a little bit in high school. And then, of course, as I started working, I started, realizing how to do the job through actually working it and then taking courses on how those things were done. So I actually worked backwards, okay? But I will tell you one thing, I was determined to have a skill set, and that's what I did, okay? So yeah, I'm an autodidact, and I am representing myself as an autodidact. Now, before I would say that I was rather quiet about it. I just wanted to kind of like lay low and apply for jobs and live my life. But I do know that people made a big whoop-de-doo about me not having a bachelor's degree and trying to bully me and exploit me. I do resent that, mainly because, you know, this sort of information should be kept confidential. Once you apply to an employer, you know, that's between you and the employer, okay? If you choose to share that information, that's your choice, okay? Some people talk about that sort of stuff all the time, but I'm not that kind of person. So I feel as though, you know, obviously my personnel records, my privacy was violated. Okay, and I think people have normalized that sort of behavior. Okay, and like I said, I do not feel sorry for the people who got their karma. Okay, and you know, just like I was talking about how when it comes to law, you know, you can't really claim ignorance when you break the law, because I personally think, okay, from a personal perspective, I believe that people knew that they were doing something wrong. This is one of the reasons why it was done covertly. This is one of the reasons why you see that crappy little smile, that little smirk, that, what do you call that, mischievous smirk on their face. They know that it's wrong. Okay, whether they know it's a legal issue or not, they at least know that it's disrespectful. Okay, so no, I don't feel sorry for those people at all. Okay, what else do I want to say? I will be including my personal experience with human trafficking at the end of my video. Now, I do plan on showing this to employers. I'm more focusing on the labor trafficking. I do believe that all knowledge or learning about all forms of human trafficking is important, but in my case, I would say that I'm more of a victim of labor trafficking. Although, okay, sometimes you can say that it did have a sexual allure to it because of the issue of the forced marriage. Now, yes, forced marriage is considered to be sex trafficking, right? It is considered to be a form of sex trafficking, okay? But, you know, I would say that nobody touched me. Nobody did anything like that. I was not put in a situation where I was being, you know, fondled or anything like that. But the fact that, you know, I was being trafficked for the purpose of trying to find me a marriage mate, which I'm going to tell you is very offensive to me, okay? And it has wasted my life, many years off my life, to be put in. They were trying to force me into a situation that I would never want to be in. First of all, I want to tell you this. Okay, I knew that I just got the intuitive message this morning as I was working on my script as well as narrating it, that Steve Murray understood or fully understood the Mormon aspect of this as I was leaving Murray Family Farms. Now, like I said, you know, I have never wanted to have anything to do with Mormonism at all, okay? But because Mormons, you know, keep genealogy, and they had this sort of little connection with the Nazi thing, these people were very active in trying to, you know, along with, what do you call it, Rex Laverne and all this other stuff, trying to modify my behavior. I had described myself as a woman of substance, meaning I have very high standards, okay? And my high standards requires that I project this, okay? I'm a very professional person. Now, I'm a clothes freak, okay? And I do wear, like, you know, colorful tank tops and stuff like that, you know, depending on whether it's a sweater, a tank top, or whatever on my off time. But I do prefer to wear professional attire when I am at work. And I will tell you why. Because, you know, they say dress for success. When I wear nicer clothes, even in my own house, okay, like there's times where I have the option of wearing like that little thing cap on my head when I go to bed. I wear a cap on my head, a pair of shorts, and a tank top or a t-shirt, right? And I'll notice I don't feel as comfortable or in the mode of thinking relating to my personal projects, which I look at this as a part of or an extension of my profession, right? I do not feel professional, even in my own home, when I'm working on things that relate to my career. And the reason why is because I associate professionalism with the whole package. Speak professionally, dress professionally, and everything. So I will at least put on something decent. Like today, I'm wearing a tank top and a pair of shorts. Now, I would not wear this to an office. I would not. But in my own home, I feel as though I want some sort of order. I want to bring order to myself. And that's how I am. That's my personal preference. That's my choice. And what I feel angry about is people trying to pressure me into explaining that. Like I do not ever have to justify what it is I want to do to anybody. This is not defiance. It's the fact that, people need to understand their boundaries. Okay, there's reasons why we have these boundaries, and there's reasons why it's the law. Okay, like talking about harassment and this sort of stuff. I feel harassed. Okay, I preferably, I understand a lot of people wear things like tennis shoes and sweatpants to the office. And I will tell you, if I was a business owner or if I was in a position of management that had control, meaning like I would encourage, a positive professional work environment. Okay, that's the kind of environment I prefer to work in. I prefer to be in a professional environment, meaning I like the nice clothes, I like the professionalism, the whole package. Okay, and everybody has their own idea of what professional is, but that's my package of professionalism. Okay, I do not believe people should be wearing. This is my personal opinion. I do not wear sweats. I do not wear tennis shoes. Those items to me are meant for exercise. Okay, I this is how I've always been, and I feel like I feel victimized, and rightfully so. Okay, I rightfully feel victimized by this. I will be talking about my personal experience. Like I said, I'm covering the labor trafficking, I'm covering the sex trafficking, and I'm covering the sex trafficking for children or child trafficking. Okay, which is sad right there. I mean, the whole people. I'm going to tell you, people are outright evil. They will exploit children. Okay, which is disgusting. And like I said, I will be talking about these different forms of trafficking in my presentation to the employers. But mostly emphasizing labor trafficking. I was debating, like, should I just go into labor trafficking? But, I realize that people may have children in their neighborhood that might be going through this, or they might be dealing with a woman who's living all alone in her neighborhood, and they might be putting pressure, somebody might be putting pressure on her for sex services or whatever. So keeping your eyes peeled for these sort of things is important, okay? Also, there are certain elements that could be part of different trafficking. I'm not going to sit there and go into that. If people ask me that question or whatever, I'm going to be prepared to answer it. But there's an element of sex trafficking in my labor trafficking. Why? Because, it was about my marital status. It's about, why aren't you getting married? The forced marriage thing, okay? I will go more into the forced marriage thing, talking about, my personal experiences. And it is in my, I'm making a little glossary. I'm adding to it as I go along. I would say it's pretty much done now. A little glossary of terminology, okay? For example, words that I might be using that relate to behavioral issues. If people don't understand, like, for example, what certain things mean, like, let me just come out, like dark triad personality traits, right? Then I'm putting the definition right by it. Some people may not understand what debt bondage is. So anything that's psychological terminology or legal terminology, I am putting it in the my little glossary. Now, for like the legal terms, on the right hand side, I am adding where you can click and take a look at that law. The laws that I'm listing, I am listing the laws for those. Okay, so yeah, I'm doing the best job I possibly can, all by myself. Okay, but you know what? I'm somebody who is dedicated to making a difference in my life. Like, I understand that I am the only person who knows what I can do to satisfy myself. I will tell you, on the outside world, anything outside of my door does not do anything for me. My projects is what lights me up, okay? All I know is that the world outside was very crooked. The world outside was eager to kill me. The world outside was, ready to betray me, ready to kill me for no apparent reason, only so that they can receive some sort of benefit. So no, I do not get any sort of charge, or I don't look forward to what goes on outside. I care about my world, okay? And rightfully so. And it's not arrogant. You have to understand, why should I feel excitement about being around people that were willing to kill me for no reason? Okay, I'm being honest, okay? These people were, I'm going to tell you, some people who are supporting me now, and I'm very grateful that things turned around. But I also am very much aware of the fact that there was a time where you were programmed to kill me. So this is how I feel, and it's normal, okay? I shouldn't have to justify that. I get the intuitive message that the people at the Department of Kern County Human Resources do support me, to the best of their ability, mind you. I do believe that this particular organization is run by the government. Okay, now I do understand that there is a thing called Ministry of Welfare. Ministry of Welfare is like where a certain group of people funds are circulated to provide for certain people through welfare. So not all welfare is government funded. But I do believe that this particular agency may be government funded, but the funds, like for example, what people might get for like general relief or something like that, they may not be. Okay, so I am very cautious about that sort of thing. When it comes to things like EDD, that is a government funded thing, and not funded, but it's actually, we do call it, it's a part of the employment package, okay? But the agency is definitely government owned, and that's something that's really important to understand. I am somebody who cares a lot about laws. I've gotten and worked my way through my life using laws to communicate with people, meaning like I always try to make sure that I speak, properly, do not try to ignite conversations or be the one who's responsible for upsetting anybody. I try to use social etiquette, which this is also a part of my presentation. I'm a very busy girl. Right now, the only videos that I need to make my thing complete is I want to go through a little bit more of negative behavioral traits, things that I consider to be, or most people would consider to be, trust violators, okay? Like, for example, I want to talk about what it means and why, it's important to be aware of when you borrow money, the importance of paying it back. Why? Sometimes it can result in an illegal issue. But other than that, like people who duck and dodge you knowing that they owe you money, they are violating your trust when it comes to your friendships, right? So it's like, sometimes it's not just about being legal, but sometimes it's about maintaining trusting relationships and being responsible. Okay, people who borrow money from you should be responsible and being willing to pay it back without you asking. Okay, because I understand, like if I owe somebody money, like for example, the lady who used to let me borrow her truck. Okay, and I don't recall sending her payments. I think maybe my son may have like handled most of that, but there was a time where she expected me to pay, and I wanted to pay her right away. You know what I mean? I'm really not comfortable with them even asking or reminded me, because to me, if you're somebody who is using somebody else's services, you should be, aware of the fact that you may be causing them a hardship if they do not get paid on time. Okay, so I fully understand that. This is what makes me somebody who is cooperative, somebody who is a good citizen. And I'm telling other people that the reason why you may have problems in your relationships is because you're not doing those things. Okay, and if you continue not do those things and show that you're responsible by paying on time, or you borrow money from somebody and you're constantly dodging them and ignoring them or whatever, the reason why they're separating from you and not want to be around you anymore, and they're definitely not going to let you borrow any more money, is because you constantly step on their toes. Okay, and this is what I'm saying. It's like proper behavior. Okay, what else am I talking about? I do get the intuitive message that people who participated in my trafficking are seen as incompetent, and that's good for them. Okay, like I said, I understand that people participated for all kinds of reasons. You know what it is? I resent ignorance. I resent ignorance because, in situations where people's lives are on the line, you are hoping that there's somebody who has knowledge, who's going to stand up and say, wait a second, this is wrong. And I'm going to protest, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you this law. People were just sitting there like on the sidelines being stupid. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's the way it is. It's like, you don't know that this is against the law. And then when you're explaining to them that it's against the law, why aren't you doing anything? Okay. So to me, it's like, I feel as though there was murderous intent on the part of the community. I can't help but feel that way. Okay. And it makes sense for me to feel this way. Okay. So I'm very careful. Also, I am accepted now as a single woman, and there is no pressure to get married. Okay. And I'm very glad about that. Okay. I'm somebody who doesn't think very favorably about marriage. Okay. And if I did, I would have my own set of standards. And what those standards are are really nobody's business. And this is one of the reasons why I was pissed off when it came to, being blocked, being interrogated, having a bunch of questions. I did not want people drawing attention to that. When I go into a job interview or I go into work, I want to be, well dressed. I want to be professional, and I want to do my job. I do not want to be bothered with childish stuff. I don't want to be bothered with, so and so and so and so. And I will tell you, if I was in, let's just say, for example, me and Elon had this like little like whirlwind romance or whatever. I really, I mean, I talk about Elon, right? Okay. And this is all hypothetical, right? Because I'm not going to be assuming or whatever. But like, if I was seeing Elon Musk, we would take that relationship between the two of us. You may see us like go to a restaurant or something like that, but we're not going to be out in the open, and it is not going to be subject to public opinion. I believe if that was something important to me, I believe those things need to be private, and that would be between he and I, not this person, that person, that person, that person. Because what happens is when you expose your relationship or you put it out to public scrutiny, then you got people who want to be a part of it, who want to mess with it, who want to gossip about it and defile that relationship either by action or deed or word. And I'm not into that. Would be interested in keeping that relationship high on a pedestal. Okay, if I was in a relationship. I'm not in a relationship, an official relationship with Elon Musk. We're just basically on the basis of hi and bye. But do I think he's cute? Yes, I do. Okay, anything else? I get the intuitive message that my rights are respected, that people are continuing seeing my father's apparition. I have not yet once seen it, okay? Anyway, what else? People want me to stay motivated for my projects. I am motivated for my project, but could I be more motivated if I realized that, if I felt like it was really over. Okay, until my life gets back to where I want it to be, and I do not feel that I'm around perps or people are being stupid, like, bringing up stupid conversations or anything like that. Like, we'll see how the next work environment goes, okay? But I mean, I'm hoping to get it done before then. But like I said, I don't like being cooped up in my house, okay? They put me in an environment, this is my own home, okay? And they came in and they decided to rearrange my stuff by having my son move in. Okay, and I love my son, but once again, it's like, I have the right to have my environment the way that I want to. I did not ask, for people to make my son's decisions. My son's life has been affected because of these stupid people, because of these stupid so-called religious people. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm just going to say it really quick, okay, because I need to get it out of my system. I hate Christianity, okay? And it's not because I'm making it up to stir up the pot. I'm not saying it because, I said nothing, no disrespect to God or anything. I hate what Christianity did. I hate what it stands for. I hate the fact that, they set me up in a fake family. I hate the fact that they were my adoptive family was sick enough to be brainwashed by this person and be prepared to have me go through all of this. To me, it's like you were in a cult. My mother was a cult member. My sisters were cult members. My brother-in-laws were cult members. And I get this negative feeling, well, it's not really negative. I don't really care at this point, okay? But I do get the feeling that my brother-in-laws, Jim and Jeff Hughes, Jim Culligan and Jeff Hughes, they may not be alive anymore. And you know what? It is what it is. Okay, because these people came into my sister's life with the sole purpose of sitting here being a part of their little Nazi clan so that they can spy on me and then send it back. And then, like I said, the most disgusting part is they fell in love with my black sisters, married them, and produced offspring, and then still wanted to promote the white agenda. Are you absolutely out of your mind? Okay, so when it comes to me, and these people, I don't have any sort of feelings for them, okay? And like I said, I think it's really important for my soul tribe to understand the only family I have is my son, Houston Gordon. Houston Island Gordon is my only family member, okay? I do not recognize my siblings. I do not recognize my cousins. I don't recognize anybody. Okay, now my cousins, I don't really know them that well, but I understand that they were extremely mind controlled, prepared, and ready to go into, and I think a lot of these people were talking about, how I used to be when I was younger. Okay, like I said, when I was younger, I had a compulsive spending habit. Like, and some people might say, oh, well, you go out and buy the things at the 99-cent store. I don't buy expensive stuff, and I have the right to, take excess money if I want to and go out and spend something for myself. Okay, with these people, you stepped out of line. First of all, my credit standing should not have anything to do with anybody's opinion other than mine. Okay, especially since I'm over the age of 18. My sister Lisa doesn't have anything to say about it. She's not my parent. And even if she was my parent, I'm over the age of 18. But I was dealing with this network. I was dealing with the network that was, like Rex Laverne and all these other people that were not the most intelligent people. And then they're also thinking things based on a religious context. Like, apparently in Mormonism or these offshoots, people do not have the regular rights, that people do in the secular world. Okay. Legally, though, they still are they have to, these so-called Christians, they are responsible for upholding the law of this state and as well as the federal laws. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, in the moral reset, where I'm talking about, how this affects everybody. Okay, it affects everybody. So when we're talking about, like, for example, the issue of, like, divorce, okay, people usually get a divorce at the county court that gets cleared or whatever. If you belong to a religion, there may be a separate process that you have to go through your church. Okay, so you have to abide by, making sure that that's all filed away with the state, and then you're also going to have to abide by certain laws that relate to your religion, and whatever those are, that's your choice. You choose to follow those. That's something that you endorse all on your own. Okay, and they are not supposed to pressure you. Okay, so my point is if people are not happy in their religions or whatever, that's their choice. They made that choice. Like my sister Tanya, she made that choice to become a Christian. She made that choice to affiliate with this Christian group that was snowballed into like a Mormon, a big cluster. I don't know what you want to call it. Okay, but that was her choice. She consented to that. She agreed to that. She agreed to live, that lifestyle. She agreed to adhere to those tenets, those doctrines, and everything. She signed on a document or whatever. She probably got baptized in that congregation. It's probably on file on the church membership. That was her choice. Okay, I didn't make those choices. Okay, and I have the right to not make those choices. Okay, and this is why I feel so angry that this religion, this cult, okay, came in and did what they did and affected my life the way that it did. They did, okay, and they had no right to. See, and this is what I'm saying. It's like I'm angry by, religious thinking. Religious thinking, yes, I do believe God in a lot of ways supersedes, country and your country. In a lot of ways it does, okay? But still, we have to live based off of these, laws that affect everyone. We have the ability to have freedom of religion because we have the laws that allow us to, okay? So it's not the other way around. And, when I think about the abuse that religious people can inflict on other people, such as myself, it's just shocking. You know what I mean? They can do a lot of evil, and that's exactly what they did. But going back to my issue of my credit, yeah, as an adult, I made a point to have good credit. Okay, so I was paying all my credit cards. I was paying them off a lot of times. Like, I would say when I was working full bloom at BT Trucking, I was paying my credit cards off, okay? And then when I lost my job, I think it's very common for people to put their bills on their credit cards, okay? Because I was seriously hoping, okay? Because I was constantly hoping that, okay, I'm making all these videos. Surely they got to understand that what they're doing is wrong, okay? They're going to let me go. I'm going to get a job. Since I wasn't working at the time, I kept thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make these Patreon videos, okay? Because I need to get money. Okay, my goal was to pay off my credit cards. Okay, they refused to do that, and on top of it, they stole from me. Okay, Rex Laverne stole from me along with Diana Ross and all these other people who had no right to. Okay, and where was this? Religious thinking. Thinking that they were entitled to it, or like convincing themselves that they were entitled to it. Okay, I am so done with religious people. Okay, and now I'm out in the open about it. It's like, I used to sit here and try to hide my contempt for these fake religious people because I was being polite. I didn't want to stir the pot, and I still don't want to stir the pot, right? But I used to be like, okay, to each his own. Okay, you do what you want to do, but you cross that line, I outright hate religious people. I mean, and I don't hate them like, okay, I hate it when they try to come at me with me feeling like, or telling me that I have some sort of responsibility to be a part of their, I do not have any responsibility to your religion whatsoever. And neither does anybody else in this country. So you need to make sure that you understand that, okay? Religious terrorism should be reported to the authorities immediately. And I did talk a little bit today in my presentation about my concern. Because, at the end of me talking about labor trafficking, I'm basically saying, I'm going to share my story at the end after I explain all the other. And I'm going to be very brief when it comes to sex trafficking and child trafficking, because mainly the thing is to get people aware of labor trafficking, okay? But still, I'm explaining it, okay? But I am talking about it. But what I was saying is that, when it comes to uh, labor trafficking and then the trafficking in general, okay? We have these people who want to, be a part of your life, or they feel as though they have some sort of right or authorization, and all of this sort of stuff should have been very obvious to the people on the outside. Like, why would somebody feel as though they had some sort of right over me? Is it because I'm a clone? Well, I am a clone. Yes, I am. But you know what? I also have the ability. I'm an adult. Okay. And I think a lot of people have this misconception that clones do not understand things. And I'm going to tell you from what I've communicated with, because some of these people that I've communicated, like some of these celebrities, I will be upfront with you. Some of these people seem like they do not have a sense of knowing where like the understanding how money works, or understanding certain proper behavior. And a lot of this is because they are placed in environments with handlers, abusive parents or whatever. I will say that I think a lot of the clones that I've come in contact with who are celebrities, they are kind of ignorant. You know what I mean? It's sad to say, okay? And some people assume that they can take advantage of these people because of what they do not know, okay? But unlike the clones that, are celebrities or whatever, I did live in the outside world. I've lived in the outside world. And yes, I did have controlling whatever, but my mother was an agoraphobic type person, so she didn't leave the house, okay? So I remember like going out to places, talking to people, interacting with people, reading material that I wanted to. Some people grow up in in environments where what they read is controlled. We don't want you reading that. We don't want you doing this. We don't want you doing that, preventing people from, acquiring knowledge. I was able to do that. Okay, so now I understand what to look for when it comes to people who may be trafficked, or I can identify if a person's been abused or whatever. And I also know that, somebody telling me not to do something and they're trying to relate it to religion, I can flip the bird at them and tell them, no, I don't think so. Because I know that I have the right to reject religion if I want to legally, whereas they did not. You know what I mean? So I'm different than a lot of clones, okay? Unlike other clones, I have knowledge. Okay, so I don't need people telling me how to live my life. Now, I understand that people were trying to change me because they thought I was unaware of my uniqueness. Like, for example, the kind of clothes that I might like, or the kind of hobbies that I'm into. I understood, in the beginning, like when I first realized I was targeted back in 2000, after I left Murray's Family Farms place, okay, I always understood that I took interest in things that most people didn't like. I just figured, but I also knew that other people did. It was more like a little bit of a niche, or certain people had, what do they call that? Like a kind of a culture, a cult culture, where like, some people like things like, I don't know. Like, I'm not into this, but for a while, some people were into the steampunk thing. Okay, and a lot of adults are into steampunk. I am not. Okay, I want to try it, but I'm not into it. But some people were into that sort of stuff. Okay, some people are into role playing, acting, like Renaissance fairs. Some people are. And I'm into stuffed animals, dolls. I'm into arts and crafts and that sort of stuff. So what they were trying to do is like, oh, she's a clone. She does maybe not realize that she should be more into this. I was fully aware what I didn't want any of that. Okay, they wanted me to be more mainstream. They wanted me to listen to modern music. They wanted me to do all these sort of things, and I do not care about those sort of things. Okay, and it's not because I'm not aware that they exist. I just don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like modern music. I don't really watch TV nowadays because I don't really find TV very interesting. You know what I mean? These are my hobbies. I like my dolls. I like my arts and crafts. They may have thought, well, maybe she needs to understand that she needs to be into a mainstream religion. I will never be a part of mainstream religion. Okay, I believe in being an authentic person, a 100% authentic person. And this is what I pride myself. I am proud to be who I am. Okay, and this is what they did not understand. And they could not leave that statement alone. As a matter of fact, I believe that Rex Laverne, in his sick, warped mind, looked at my contentment with myself as a challenge. Like, well, she doesn't like this, that, and that. I'm going to sit here and show her. And so he ended up messing up my career, putting my life on hold for his own entertainment. I am so glad that motherfucker's dead. I am so glad he's dead, and I hope his kids are dead, and I hope his wife is dead, and I do not care. Okay? You do not waste people's time just to play games, trivializing my life, my responsibilities to myself as well as my son's. I am angry because not only did he mess with my life, he left my son to take responsibility for something that he shouldn't take responsibility for. Mind you, it's always an option of a family member to help out his family, okay? And that's, of course, when the relationship is good. And I do love my son, and he knows that I love my son. He knows he's loved, okay? But at the same time, any parent, if you are the kind of parent that I am, okay, someone who has struggled a lot, you do not want your kid to struggle, okay? And so what did this motherfucker do? He puts my son in a situation where my son struggles. Why do I say this? Because my son is 31 years old and should have a life of his own. He should have a life of his own. Okay, but they're like, oh, he can move in with her. And then, how dare you tell my son what to do? How dare you tell me what to do? And how dare you tell my son what to do? Okay, I hate that man, and no, I will never forgive him. Even if he was like saying he was sorry, you're not sorry. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's like you waited too long, you took too many years, you knew good and well. The only reason why you would be apologizing is because you would try to be getting out of hot water. Screw you. Don't ever take somebody's apology after they took years and years and years and years off of your life. Okay, and then they're backed into the corner where they don't now they are only saying sorry because they're caught and it's exposed. Okay, because that's worthless. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. What else do I want to say? I am the sole owner of the Swan Song Manifesto. Yes, I am. And I am starting to work a little bit on my newsletter here and there. I'm all over the place right now, okay? Because I'm working on the moral reset, and I'm also, I took notes on my other half of the my project, which is Pathways to Excellence, me changing the school system. And, there's certain professions that are going to be probably more likely that people are going to drift into in the next few years. Okay, some positions are going to go bye-bye, right? So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is going to be the newest type or profession that most people are, or they're going to need. Okay, I don't know really, so I'm going to have to look that up. Originally I chose dentistry, general practitioner, doctor, trying to show people how they can do it in increments to where they can cut down going from this many years of school to doing it this way. And how they would be doing it is gradually implementing things in their life as they go along. So I'm going to be doing that. And so it's taking me some time. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of motivation because they put me in these situations, okay? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they buried Rex Laverne, but I really don't think that he should even have a casket. I really do not believe that he deserves a proper burial. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, me talking about women of substance. Yes, I do have standards. No, I do not dress, provocatively. I don't sit here while I'm pulling up my dress, my tank top. No, I do not dress provocatively. I do not dress sexy for work. I usually dress, in the appropriate attire, like skirts, blouses, slacks, this sort of stuff. Okay, and then of course I wear jeans and stuff like that too. During the fall and winter, I do wear like a professional jacket or blazer or whatever. This is something that helps my mindset stay professional, helps me think professional, helps me keep, it keeps you in that mode, okay? And that's what I like to do. And I think a lot of women, visualize how they are going to enter the workforce. They usually see themselves this way. And I understand throughout the years we've had religious groups basically dictating how people are supposed to live. Okay, I am so offended that these groups, felt as though they had more rights and authorities than what they really did. They have been ruining people's lives for years. And when I think about all these women who end up getting stuck in all these unhappy marriages, it really does rip my heart apart, okay? Because oftentimes, not only do they get into these unhappy marriages, they produce children that have to live under these unhappy marriages. And then they have this religious doctrine telling them how sacred marriage is, making them ashamed to admit that they want to get the hell out. I am tired of people getting abused, and I'm sorry that they do. But at the end of the day, that's their choice, and they also have the choice to leave. So if you choose to leave your religion, that's your choice. But if you also feel comfortable, because I understand some people are very happy with their church family, okay, and I think a lot of people share a collective thought of coming to find out that their churches have been misguided, okay. Maybe they didn't originally know about or think about the whole collaboration of all these inner churches and stuff like that. But to me, it pisses me off, to be honest with you. It pisses me off because, all these years, especially like Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff, always talking about the truth and everything. And then to find out everybody's just one big happy family, it really pisses me off. Okay. Anyway, okay. Now going back to my credit. Yeah, my credit should be restored. Right now, I do not have money to sit here and spend on a copy of my credit report. I'm gonna have to wait until all that stuff gets taken care of. I do want to verify that my credit balances are zero. I do believe that these people should take full responsibility for my credit card bills, and I want my credit crystal clear like it was before. I had perfect credit. Okay, so I want Rex Laverne, I don't know, he's dead, but whatever, people who are associated with him, or Synchrony Bank, who I had 2 accounts with, I expect them to take care of it because they complied with Rex Laverne, okay? These credit card companies, I want people to understand, okay, that churches work underground in an illegal manner to do these things, okay, based on churches. This cannot happen. These churches are like laying out terrorist attacks on people, ruining their credit, affecting their ability to live, and they have no right to. I am so tired of religious people. So yeah, I'm glad to get my credit back. It's good that these people who were bullying me are now either dead or seen as incompetent, because that's exactly what they are. I do not have compassion for people who harass other people, even if they say that they didn't realize that it was illegal or whatever. When it comes to your job, how you make money, this is how you survive. Okay, you have to have a job in order to survive. So when people trivialize that, I don't have any compassion for you. I do not feel sorry for you. Just like those stories where, people go postal. Like, I would never go postal, okay? But if somebody does go postal and ends up killing people and end up killing their office or their previous employees, or employers or whatever, do I feel sorry for those people? I'm going to tell you, I don't. I don't feel sorry for them. You know why? Because they were asking for it. Okay, you are playing with people's lives. Your job is your ability to provide for yourself as well as your family, okay? And when people play with your life like that, it's like them putting a gun to your head, trying to force you, just literally taking things from you, taking your ability to pay your bills, taking money out. It's like kind of like taking money out of your bank account, but taking out of the bank account before you actually, deposit it into your bank account. It's like affecting your quality of life and your ability to live. So no, I don't feel sorry for people who end up, getting greased because they were disrespecting and throwing somebody's life up in the air and thinking it was funny. As a matter of fact, you got what you deserve. I do not, and I will not feel sorry for those sort of people. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I think that's it. I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to go ahead and just, relax for the rest of the day. I feel as though I put enough time into it. I would like to hurry up myself and do this. I take a lot of time narrating. I am somebody who constantly has different thoughts going into my head as I'm narrating, and then I end up slipping up and then having to do it all over again. It would be more ideal if I did have a team, where I would write the script and they would narrate it. Unfortunately, I have been, isolated because of the illegal practices of this network that I resent being associated with on a daily basis. Okay, like I said, I hope this is a lesson to some of these Bakersfield owners, especially the Bakersfield business owners who've been in existence for a very long time. So I know I've worked for certain companies where they kind of poo-poo work laws, and they'll say things like, well, you can do that your way if you want to, okay, or blah 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 blah. And I'm sure Rex Laverne felt the same way. Okay, and so this is one of the reasons why he thought that he can get away with it. Okay, but I will throw all of these issues out in the open. I was not able to get legal compensation for this because of the dual affiliations, which I'm briefly touching on in my thing. Okay, if you think about how this was orchestrated through churches, and it could be, in this case, my case, it was organized through churches as well as white nationalist groups. Okay, but it could be organized through political groups. It could be religion, and of course race. Okay, so I am telling people, I'm giving people the number to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, okay? But because I've never received any verification from them, I wrote to them, they never returned it, and I'm not doing this to slight them. I'm just saying about this in general, okay? This is how deep and serious human trafficking is. If these organizations work through church affiliations and use things like the internet to, communicate their message, whether through social media, social apps or whatever, messaging apps or whatever. That I'm talking a lot about interstate communication, commerce, the legal aspect of it. Yes, it is illegal to do this, to try to blacklist or ostracize somebody through these means. Okay, and when I think about organizations like the Department of Human Trafficking, how do I know that they don't have dual affiliations? I do believe that there's been some sort of efforts to clean this sort of issue up, but I am warning people about it, and I'm letting people know the tragedy of being a victim of somebody of human trafficking, also known as gang stalking, because it influences a lot of people. It allows, or was overlooking, this very important issue of dual affiliations. This is how it operates. So some people, and when you think about the money that people can make through human trafficking, if I was a human trafficker, why wouldn't I create a department of human trafficking or something like that? These people are just going to be coming right directly to me. And then I can tell people, and yes, these people are that crooked. I can tell people I'm here to help these people. Okay, and I'm not saying that these organizations are not helping people. I'm just saying when it comes to human trafficking, it makes everyone a liar. And we cannot trust anybody. So going forward, that is my cue for these certain departments. Hopefully the president will be on top of this, that these people can start, if they're not being audited now, they will start getting audited. They need to account for all these people who are inquiring for their help, and what kind of help are they providing specifically. Like it's one thing for me, they're always saying, okay, you go ahead and call, report this. Are you just recording these calls for statistical information, or are you actually helping getting people out of these situations? Are you putting up in hotels? Are you giving them food vouchers? What are you doing? Okay, I'm just referring them to these organizations because these are, organizations that most people are used to being referred to. Okay, but I'm also letting people understand and warning them that there's no way that we can guarantee that there is no dual affiliations. And when you're dealing with human trafficking, you always have to be open to the idea that there's dual affiliations, because no one can be trusted. Just like in the heart of my targeting, I tried contacting law offices. They were all instructed by this religious lunatic not to assist me. Okay, so these so-called lawyers who understand things like law, to me, should have known better. Okay, they should have been like referencing material saying, oh, is this something we should do? Because I'll tell you what, as a lawyer, everything that you should do should be based on what is legal. And if it's not, you're just a goddamn hypocrite. Okay, so we had lawyers participating in this. I also do believe that the Bakersfield Police Department was participating in this. Okay, their tie-in could have been white supremacy. It could have very well been religious. I'm just saying, okay? So, even in law enforcement, dual affiliations can exist. FBI, CIA, whatever you want to call it, all these sort of organizations, we need to let people understand. You can contact them, but that does not mean that it's not there, especially if we're talking about religion, race, politics, or something like that. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Okay, I had no one to turn to when I realized I was a victim. My family was a part of the cult. The lawyers were a part of the cult. I had nowhere to go. Okay, do I feel as though it's like that now? I do believe that BTD understands who I am. They know that Rex Laverne was responsible for this. They know that this was a human trafficking ring, okay? And I'm hoping that I will give them further instructions, or of course they're going to see this when the moral reset is completed. But I will tell you, human trafficking is an entanglement of lies, deceit, brainwashing, and everything that you can think of under the sun. It is a very dangerous situation, and people need to be talking about it more. So anyway, I am going to wrap up this video. I'm going to go enjoy some entertainment myself for a little bit, try to get myself back into the right frame of mood, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.